Hey, Yvonne here, succession planning expert, executive coach, and the creator of Succession app. Today we're going to talk about succession planning. It's not just for the CEO. Today we're going to talk about succession planning and the fact that it's not only for CEOs. Let me start with a story. So I am a speaker and I do go on the road and speak about CEO succession planning. Many times it's hundreds of people in the room, and I usually start my presentation by asking the audience how many of their organizations have a succession plan for their CEO. And about half of the people will raise their hand. Then I'll explain the difference between what is called an emergency or interim succession plan and a planned succession plan. The emergency or interim succession plan lists the people or person who would take over for the individual if they would become ill or have to leave the organization quickly. It is a part of the planned succession plan. The planned succession plan, which includes the emergency succession, also goes further into what happens next. How are they going to replace this person, etc. So when I explain it that way, and then I ask it again, so how many of you have a CEO succession plan? Not very many people will raise their hand again. This doesn't surprise me. It's getting a little better than it has in the past, probably because we're having so much turnover with the retirement of the baby boomers. But it is very, very important to have the full planned succession plan. There are three ways to look at succession planning. One is the emergency or interim successor. So for each person, management person who's doing a succession plan, they need to think about who could do my job on an emergency or interim basis. The second way to look at succession planning is in a focused planned succession way. And when we look at it that way, what we're doing is we are looking at each position, each key management position within the organization, and saying, who would those potential successors be? And we would create succession plans and development plans based on those individuals. Now, one of those individuals could even be named as an emergency or an interim succession. It could be more than one of those individuals as well. The third way we look at succession planning is overall leadership development. And so there are lots of organizations that will call their potential leaders just that, high potentials. And they will put them into a program to help them become better leaders. And so that's part of succession planning as well. Now, the difference between a planned succession for a particular position and the general leadership succession is that they're learning, in the third option, they're learning about how to be good leaders. So there's not a particular job with particular competencies that they are developing themselves for. I want to show you this graphic. It's called the succession planning solution. It starts out as a blank triangle, and at the base we put in the word define. What we're doing in the succession planning process at the base is we're defining the competencies that would be important for someone to be a potential successor for a certain position. So let's say the CEO role. So we would define all the competencies that are important for the CEO role in that step. In the next step, we have determine. Here we are determining who the potential successors will be or could be within your organization for this role, in our case, the CEO role. Then at the top, we have develop. After you define the critical competencies, you determine the potential successors, You have to figure out where the potential successors have gaps within the critical competencies. Then you create a development plan. That's the develop part of this triangle. So you create a development plan so that people can develop in the critical competencies. And as you can see, if you go through this process, you will have potential successors in the end. So in conclusion, make sure you are defining the critical competencies for the position that you're doing the succession plan for. You're determining the potential successors and figuring out where their gaps are. You're creating a development plan for them, which is the part of the plan most people skip because it can be the hardest thing to come up with, but it's very, very important. And if you go through those 3 steps and you're updating it on at least an annual basis, you will have some good potential successors at the end of the process. I have included the succession planning solution in the link below as a resource for you. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get all the information you need to know about succession planning.